Hey everybody, this is Mr. Bad with Names and I'm back to doing art stuff. At least for this video, I decided to put together this little speed paint. It depicts a baker inside of a little basement slash workroom bakery area. I hope you can make out some of the compounding efforts I've been going to, a bit of perspective here, you know, a bit of a more defined shape there. While drawing this initial sketch layer, I kept trying to figure out what would be a nice level of detail that wouldn't be too overwhelming and tedious for me to go over later, because that's a fairly big problem for me. So here by the fireplace we have a little broom, a little fire poker, some firewood, and then we're finally getting to drawing the character on the screen. And I decided to draw them looking very grumpy and focused because, well, that's what baking makes me think of. You know, cooking is like brewing a potion in a cauldron, you know? Throw in a carrot. What's the worst thing that can happen? It'll taste a bit like carrot. But try adding a fucking carrot to your cake. See how that goes. Carrot cake does not count. That's a formulated recipe. For an equivalent example, try adding cucumbers to your carrot cake. Point is, baking is all precision and patience and practice, and those are like the worst peas. Okay, not the worst ones, but definitely up there. From now on, I'm not going to tell you guys that I'm cooking up a video. I'm going to start saying that I'm baking a video, because that way, you know, there's like a 50% chance that it's gonna fall and be terrible, and I threw it away and maybe had some of the partially cooked dough with a spoon. Whatever salmonella survived the oven deserves to poison me. And while I hope my rambling has distracted you from it, you may or may not have noticed that my perspective is a bit wonky. I mean, I can't really draw a straight line per se, and I don't want to use the line tool because that's too straight. So, you know, kinda wibbly wobbly, kinda, you know, dealio. Personally, I choose to believe that that little door under the stairs, the little Harry Potter hole, probably just has more flour and sugar and stuff, you know, baking equipment. And now it's time for the second layer. I turned off anti-aliasing to get a nice crisp line. That's just going to help me color stuff in. So then later when we get to it, I can just use the bucket tool on a duplicated layer of this to fill everything in. And then any touches I can go in and do manually afterwards. Fun fact, originally I wanted the baker to be an elf, but by the time I put down the body, the background was already in place, if you remember. And elves in my setting are really tall and lanky, and it just wouldn't make sense. So I kind of had to decide between either saying, yeah, but I want to do the pointy ears, or actually staying consistent, which I have done, grudgingly. You know, the scariest part of doing a speed paint for me is the fact that I have to commit to finishing the picture, you know? I'm not able to really finish a piece in more than one sitting because I'm just not interested in it after. And that's definitely something I'm gonna try and work on, but that's just how it is at the moment. So I end up sitting here like, oh man, I want to do a speed paint, those are fun. And then immediately I'm like, yeah, no, but are they like 20 minutes in? Like if you started off shit and you've already been recorded for like 20-30 minutes, and you have to make the decision between hoping that lighting fixes everything or just starting from scratch. Is that fun, names? But, you know, sometimes it is. If you're wondering which times were the fun ones, it's the ones on YouTube, the ones I uploaded and didn't like put in the pit of shame and deleted, and then overwrote those bits and then deleted what I overwrote them with and just kept scrambling and partitioning the data until nothing remained. Now I know what you're thinking, and it's gross. Stop it. That's really no way to handle a mason jar. Back to the picture, the thing they're sprinkling onto the dough is a bit of salt. Because, you know, if you think about it, that's really the thing that connects cooking, baking, and science. except for people also. And water you could argue, but that's bullshit, because that's through people in one case. They're all like, oh, I fucking hate salting my dough. You wanna hear something fucked up? Salt doesn't have to be salty, chemically speaking. Recently I was doing a bit of chemistry, right? A bit of alchemy. Basically I took some copper and I dissolved it in sulfuric acid with a bit of peroxide to help the reaction along. And TLDR, I was left with a bunch of, with a bit of copper sulfate. But neither copper sulfate nor copper hydroxide, both of which are salts, are salty. Now I have not tasted them, because copper poisoning is bad, and I feel like I'm touching too many copper salts anyway. But I googled it, and neither of them are salty, and that's breaking my heart. Imagine blue salt, and I mean proper fucking copper sulfate blue salt, not that fucking poser from across the sea. I know that's vague depending on where you are or where you think I am, but water separates you almost certainly from where they make blue salt. It's like one location. And anyway, it's like blue inspired. It's like light baby blue. We're talking proper saturated blue, the kind of blue that could be a pigment. I've seen a guy on YouTube try a bunch of metal salts, and apparently none of them tasted nice, which makes me feel a bit better, but who knows, maybe given enough time, we'd get used to the flavors. I just don't think you people are giving lead acetate a fair shot. The Romans weren't afraid of a little lead wine. Granted, they were racist and sexist and slavers and pretty much all the bad stuff, but think about it. They drank the lead. They were alright. Ish. I know you have doubts. I know you're hesitant. I know you heard that lead is a neurotoxin. These are valid concerns, and I want you to know that I've heard them. This is me hearing them now. I'm done hearing them. And anyway, none of these studies tackle the important questions. Who asked and who cares? And anyway, lead is wicked heavy, so like getting the toxin into the neuro would only really be a problem for people with really strong blood, and they can probably handle it anyway at that point. Now, in the background I'm sure you can see colors coming in, almost all of them now. And looking back on my final piece and reflecting on it a bit, I feel like I should have been a bit bolder with the lighting, committed a bit more to the darkness, but you know, I was a coward. This time I went for a sharper kind of lighting. Sometimes I try to change the base color to bring it closer to the shade of the light, but then sometimes, like here, I just take the actual color of the light source and just kind of edge things. One of the statements of all time. I tried to give the baker everything they need, though I did forget water. It occurs to me now, I forgot water and eggs, but you know, they have flour and salt and some sort of whipped substance over there, so also, I'm usually pretty bad at picking an interesting skin color for my character. Usually, I just go with the acid burns on ham, bleached look. But this time, as I was trying to go to the shades, this one just like worked really well in my opinion. So this is what we're going for. They're really fucking gripping that dough. Again, baking, it's all very precise. Maybe if you don't hold down the dough, it scurries away. That hasn't happened to me in my limited baking experience, but to be fair, I was working with batter, and batter is probably better. I haven't worked much with the other thing though. Say what you want, but I stand by that rug. If I got that design IRL, I'd keep it. I'd prefer if it was a bit more saturated, I guess, but you know, lighting is allegedly here. But anyway, I've rambled long enough. Soon it will be time to say goodbye, tearfully. I mean, it's only going to be tearful if you refuse to leave, because I'm really bad at confrontation, and that's kind of the only thing that comes to my mind for how to deal with that. Anyway, goodbye! Also, ta-da, final piece, goodbye for real now, bye-bye!